I'm known for having bouts of insomnia, so I tend to stay awake until the very last moment that I can keep my eyes open. It doesn't usually bother me though. I don't really have much of a social life. I work third shift because, let's face it, I'm awake most hours of the night anyway. It was on one of these restless nights I found myself trying desperately to fall asleep. I found that sleep evaded me. I poured myself a glass of hot tea, took a hot shower, and slipped under the covers. I spent hours tossing and turning to no avail. Sleep just wouldn't come, so I turned on the TV and started playing one of my favorite video games. Surely I would eventually get to that point where I just couldn't keep my eyes open any longer. A few more hours passed, and eventually I got to the point where it became difficult to keep my eyes open. So I went up to my loft, laid down once more, and gave sleep another try. I lay there in my bed, tossing and turning under the covers, before finally dozing off. It must have been around 4:45 a.m. by the time I hit deep REM sleep. When I finally did, I found myself in my dreaming mind in a strange room, which was pitch black other than a small line of light emanating from beneath the door. It was the only source of light, and I did not know where I was, but the most soothing instrumental music was being strummed, and I could hear it coming from beyond the door. The sound of piano, harp, and guitar was almost angelic in its harmony. I slowly got up and turned the doorknob. As the ancient door swung creakily, but gently open, I heard the creaking of the paint, and the room was flooded with the soft glow of multiple candles, which were strewn along a narrow corridor, adorned with a burgundy auburn paint and trimmed in gold. Slowly and quietly, I began walking in the direction of the beautiful music, paying little more attention to the hallway or the candles. I reached the end of the hallway, which opened up into a massive gaping area which was very dark and seemed to be lit by the twilight moon. There was a chilling breeze which hit my right side just above my ribs, as a chill crawled its way down, carving its way deep into my spine like a knife, making my entire body shiver violently. The music slowly faded as I walked further until it was so faint I could no longer hear it. I could swear it was coming from this direction. Every bit of light slowly faded to black as I walked on until I could no longer even see my hand in front of my face. No matter what direction I walked, I could not find the corridor again, nor could I hear the serene music. I found myself outside what appeared to be a gigantic, abandoned granite fountain. The faces of angels or cherubs, cracked and crumbling, on the surface were staring back at me. I looked further and saw a building, which appeared to be a mall, a massive place in ill repair. Furniture and wooden signs strewn everywhere amid cracked, peeling, and decaying walls. There was a quiet sound of water dripping from somewhere, and the smell of mold invaded my nostrils. This place has a cold, sinister feel to it, I thought to myself. I don't like this, I said to myself, the sound of my own voice nearly deafening as it doubled back and struck me in a thunderous echo from the darkness. I put my hand over my mouth. Too late. I turned back to look outside in the direction of which I came and saw nothing. Pitch black and chilling wind howled in, pressing against me as if bullying me to go into the old building. I reluctantly stepped in and I shut the door. This place isn't much, but I guess it will shelter me from the cold wind, I thought silently to myself, as I sat down slowly in one corner, brushing away some random debris from the floor. I fell silent and eventually must have fallen asleep in my exhaustion there on the floor. I was awoken abruptly, and with a start, by a loud bang, followed by a loud metallic creaking and what sounded like heavy footsteps and the crunching of debris from the tattered tile floor. My heart jumped up into my throat and started beating wildly. Ker-thump, ker-thump, ker-thump. I could feel it pounding all the way through my body, racing like a jackhammer. I tried to hold my breath and keeping my body completely still as I strained my ears in an attempt to hear something, anything. Nothing but silence filled my ears, and I could see nothing but darkness. Was it all in my head? Had I just imagined the sounds? Nothing but silence ensued for the next several minutes. Suddenly, I heard the sound again. It was distant, but it sounded like it was coming ever closer. The heavy footsteps and the cracking of the floor tiles were accompanied by the sound of heavy, labored breathing. What sounded like a large animal with massive lungs. The footsteps grew louder and closer, and the footsteps and the breathing fell silent. I was certain this was no person. It was something massive and powerful, and it knew I was there. It was hunting me. I held perfectly still, trying to prevent my knees from rattling so that this thing would not detect me. I realized that when it was not moving or breathing, it too was listening. I could only hope that it couldn't hear my heart pounding or my knees rattling together in fear. I was paralyzed with fear. I could not move a muscle. I thought about running, but I knew better. I somehow doubted my legs would get the message if I tried. Silence. I could see one of the far walls, which looked to be nearly 100 yards away. It was bathed in the moonlight, which was seeping in through a large crack in the ceiling. It almost had its own eerie glow to it. Suddenly, the footsteps picked back up again, this time closer than they ever were before, as a shadow moved past me quickly, blocking out the light from the moonlit wall. I felt a strong urge to run. I was terrified to the core and frozen in place. Suddenly, I heard the heavy, labored breathing of the creature no more than 5 feet from me. I held my breath and closed my eyes tight. Suddenly, the creature let out the loudest and most horrifying scream I have ever heard in my entire life, and I could feel its hot saliva and breath in my face. My eyes snapped open, and I saw it. It had glowing red eyes, multiple skeletal features, a bony but large humanoid frame, almost like an exoskeleton. It stood on 2 legs, about 9 feet tall, with long arms and claw-like hands in the shape of massive meat hooks. I tried to scream in my terror, but all that came out was a whimper. My forehead coated itself in beads of ice-cold sweat. My eyes opened wider than they had ever been, my jaw gaping, and my skin the palest white. The creature swung one of its massive hook-like hands at me as I ducked down and pressed my chest against the cold tile floor. I quickly jumped to my feet and started running the fastest run I'd ever ran in my life. The creature lunged for me with its hooks, bellowed, and started after me in an all-out sprint. I knew I couldn't keep this exhaustive running up much longer. I'm going to get tired. I will have to stop. And then that thing is going to eat me. I decided that the only way to beat this thing was to try to outsmart it, and hope, like everything, that I was indeed the smartest. I tore down the corridors at my top speed, a burning in my legs ever present, and starting to make its way into my sides and chest. I knew the creature was still following me, but I didn't know how far behind, and I definitely didn't want to look back. I started to feel my legs turn rubbery, and I felt the oxygen levels in my blood dropping. I rounded a corner and ducked under a huge toppled sign and hid, trying to halt my heavy panting. There was an old broken skylight in a large area, which I had just ran through to get here. I laid flat on my stomach under the sign watching, waiting in silence, without a sound, but my stifled gasps for air. It wasn't long before the creature sprung forth from the corridor I had just come from. I could see it clearly saturated in the moonlight, flooding through the skylight. What the hell is it? I thought to myself. What the hell does it want? No more time to think. It was coming toward me, and it was coming toward me fast. Sniffing the air like some kind of dog, but it was clearly not a dog. No, it almost looked like some kind of alien reptile person or something. Obviously some type of humanoid lizard creature, I thought again. It continued sniffing for me, then suddenly it looked right at me as I hid under the sign. Oh God, please don't see me. Please don't find me. Oh please, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I begged in my thoughts. I stayed perfectly still, holding my breath as it came closer and closer. Suddenly, it plunged one of its giant razor-sharp hooks through my sign and straight into my right shoulder. I let out a scream of pain so loud it echoed throughout the entire place and bounced back multiple times to the creature's obvious amusement. The creature tried to snap at me under the sign, as I was pinned to the floor through the sign by its massive hook in my shoulder. I knew I was going to be killed at that point. I was just waiting for that final moment to hear the loud crunch of my skull or my ribs as it devoured some vital part of me. My shoulder in agony and my eyes full of tears, I refused to moan again. I refused to give it the satisfaction. I fell silent and sobbed to myself in my helpless writhing agony. Knowing it could not get me through the sign, the creature pulled its enormous hook hand out of my shoulder and threw the sign off of me. I crawled as fast as I could to get away. I knew it was all futile. There was no escape. I was losing so much blood that I felt I would pass out at any moment. Blood gushing out of my shoulder, I leaned against the wall. Nowhere left to go. Anemic and out of breath, gasping and panting for air, I shouted at the creature, which had me cornered and was slowly moving in for the kill, its mouth dripping with steamy saliva, its razor-sharp teeth exposed fully, and its glowing red eyes burning into my mind like embers. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for, you bastard? You want me to suffer? Is that it? You want me to suffer more before you rip me to shreds? I'm already dead. What more do you want from me? I picked up a plank of wood, which was sitting on the floor next to me, and threw it at the creature. It hit the monster's head and made a hollow plunking sound. The monster was unfazed as it hastened its approach, raised both of its hooks in the air, and everything went black. Silence. When I opened my eyes, the first thing I noticed was the intense agony in my shoulder was still present. I looked down only to see a massive gouge exactly where the beast had pinned me. I haven't slept in several days since then. I know it's there, somewhere in the depths of my mind. Or maybe it's real. And I know it's not just in my mind. I can't make up my mind. All I know is I haven't slept in 3 days. If I go to sleep, it's coming for me. The caffeine pills are starting to have less and less effect on me now. I'm so tired, I'm in serious trouble. Sooner or later, I'm going to get to that point where I can no longer keep my eyes open. Maybe if I just close my eyes for a minute. Not to sleep, just to rest. Just a bit. I can't help it anymore. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you want to see more, let me know in the comments below, and tell me what you thought of this narration. Make sure to follow me on Twitter for updates, and if you'd like to get early videos, shoutouts, and much more, I'd appreciate it if you check out my Patreon page. It's a place where you can help support my channel while getting awesome rewards in the process, and every pledge helps out a ton, no matter the size. So if you'd like to see all the rewards I offer and consider becoming a patron, it'd mean a ton to me if you'd click the link in the description and just check it out. And don't forget to show some love to the amazingly talented authors who make these narrations possible. Have a good night, everybody. Cheers.